Welcome to this edition of Hindsight is Horrifying, the show where three mostly normal and somewhat cynical adults discuss life as members of the TV generation.
Says it every week.
Now here are your hosts, Darth Jada, Jason Mitchell, and Adam B.
Adam B.
We're all here.
It's good to
Yes,
be
we're all here.
In
Yes.
spirit and in reality.
Trebek.
I'm not here in spirit.
Just physically.
Just in spirit.
Yes.
Aw.
Yeah.
No, welcome everybody to another exciting edition of Hindsight is Horrifying. Now, I do have to admit that tonight I have a bit of a problem. Okay, because we've gathered in this room
That
to
and the
discuss.
bulldozer.
Yeah, to discuss a movie.
Yes.
The problem is, I saw Ghostbusters Afterlife today. All I want to do is talk about it. Ghostbusters Afterlife. Go see it.
Go see
Go
it.
see it. It was really, really good.
I
It
trust
was,
his
it,
opinion.
it was very good.
Yes, apparently we're
Yeah.
all going to see it together now.
Yes,
And we're
yes.
carting the children along, so
Yeah.
that'll be fun.
No spoiler alerts.
No, we
That's all
haven't.
I gotta
Oh, no,
say.
no. I'm not going to say anything about it.
Don't ruin our first time, please.
Too late.
That's what she said over and over again.
I ruined someone else's first time.
Damn.
Oh.
Oh.
Anyway,
Yes.
so Darth, why don't you tell the good people what non-Ghostbusters movie we're watching tonight?
We're watching not Ghostbusters. We are watching Hindsighters, one of my all-time top 5 favorite movies
It's a good
in
one.
the world.
Oh, yeah.
So much so that both of the boys truly enjoyed it, and that
Well,
doesn't
don't
surprise
speak for
me. At all.
me.
You
Don't
said
speak
you
for me.
did.
I know,
you
but
said it off camera.
I know, but now we're on screen. I got a voice.
He's got it.
tongue
When
in my
he
head.
goes home, someone will be speaking for him.
Exactly.
Don't do it here.
Oh dear God! Don't
Well-
compare me to your wives.
What I was going to say, who we both love very much.
Oh, my God. Could go anywhere. Could go anywhere.
Come on, dude.
Oh, now you're speaking for him, but that's
Yeah.
okay.
No, what I was going to say is when you first told me that we were going to watch Wonder Boys,
Yes.
a movie I knew almost nothing about.
That
knew
surprised
nothing
the
about.
hell out of me that neither of you had seen
I had
it.
No,
not.
never seen
I'd
it.
heard of it.
I
Right.
was a bit worried because I immediately got a Dead Poet Society vibe.
I can understand that from the beginning because they're the classroom setting and all that. I understand.
I can say with absolute confidence though, this movie is not Dead Poet Society.
It's the opposite of Dead
It's the
Poets
opposite
Society.
because Dead Poet Society is shit. And this movie is fantastic.
I'm not sure that I agree that Dead Poets Society is shit, but and to give you a feel of what this movie is about and how different it is from Dead Poets Society, the synopsis, which is partially correct. So it's a professor suffering from writer's block. No, he's not. Tries to deal with the pressures of his complex love life and his troubled students' assorted problems.
It's the opposite of that.
Despite the encouragement of one of his admiring female pupils, the professor is obsessed with his current work. He finds release in his friendship with a lonely but gifted student, but the news of his lover's pregnancy further complicates his already difficult life.
His lover.
That always complicates a
lover.
life.
A lover in general complicates a
Yes.
life, let alone when she gets knocked up.
Yeah.
So, not that I would know anything about that.
Well, this is a movie that is very much an actor's movie.
Oh, yes.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, we've got Michael Douglas in probably the best role I've ever seen Michael Douglas in.
It's my favorite role that I've ever seen him in. He's been in some good movies. He's had some
No
good
doubt.
roles, but this one
Yeah.
is my favorite. And same with Robert Downey Jr. I love Sherlock Holmes. He's great as Tony Stark. He's good at everything that he does, but this role, it's like it was designed for him. He was
So
perfect
those
for it.
movies are basically what happens when you decide to give up being a real actor and just cash the checks.
Wouldn't you?
Oh, absolutely. I'm not criticizing
We'd have a much
it.
nicer studio if that happened
Oh.
to any of the three of us.
No, RDJ. That was not a criticism.
That was a smart move,
Yeah,
sir.
well done you. This movie reminds me very much of a certain vein of movies that we got in the 90s, not so much in the early 2000s.
Right.
I'm immediately put in mind of Scent of a Woman.
Mhm.
All right.
I thought you might say Glengarry Glen Ross. Very, very dialogue intensive.
I could see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dialogue
I think the
intensive
university
without
thing.
being overly expositional or boring.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No,
That's
the dialogue
the beauty
is
of this. It's so character driven. It's
Yeah.
not really because that's one thing that Roger Ebert said. He had a glowing review about this movie. Not only that it's one of the most accurate portrayals of campus life that he's ever seen, because he was an English professor at a certain point, but he said that the movie involves dead dogs, Monroe memorabilia, a stolen car, sex, adultery, pregnancy, guns, dope, and cops, but it's not about any of those things.
Yes,
it's about the people indulging in those things and how they.
Michael Douglas.
He looks so. Because he's walking.
They're walking
angle.
on the
Yeah, I was wondering
They're walking on the.
She's got nice legs.
Well, so explain what's going on here.
So Michael Douglas, it doesn't really get into the synopsis in that much detail, and it was only sort of accurate. So Michael Douglas is an English professor, and he doesn't have writer's block, as it turns out. It's a bit of a twist that it's the opposite of writer's block. Yeah. He's been working on his next novel, because he wrote like the best American novel 7 years ago. It's called The Arsonist's Daughter. It was critically acclaimed. It had, great reviews, the whole nine, and it put him on the map. Now it's 7 years later, and he has yet to produce another book. And he's got a diehard editor, Robert Downey Jr.,
Crabtree.
Terry
Crabs.
Crabtree.
Yeah.
He calls him Crabs. And so Terry flies in for the weekend for this thing that the campus is holding called WordFest. And
for writers, you would think they'd come up with a better name.
Yeah. It's like Word Tales.
Yeah.
Except it's got a fest.
Yeah.
Oh, they ripped us off.
Word Tales is vastly superior.
It is.
But
absolutely.
Michael Douglas even has a line. He's like, I knew Crabtree didn't give a shit about WordFest. He was in town to ask me about my book. And so Crabtree has been getting pressure in New York City, where he's a fancy editor. And he is there to pressure Grady to see if he can look at the book and help him make some progress. And Grady's holding him at bay the entire time.
This is a relationship that showed up in movies in the past. There was this idea of the writer and
his editor being kind of his champion.
Well, and it's half champion and half the guy who's poking him, trying to get him. I need that book. I need that book.
Yeah. But
you need the commission is what you need.
But Terry flies into town, and lo and behold, he's in the company of a rather tall transvestite named, what was he going by?
Sloviak
something.
Antonia Sloviak, yes.
Right.
And because once he takes his makeup off later, Tony, now that I'm home.
Antonia.
Yeah, he shows up in these spiked heels, and Grady's first observation, and that's another compliment that Ebert gave this, is that there are no emotional show-offs. Like, there wasn't this big reveal that, the transvestite's a transvestite, and everybody has to accept her. Everybody clocked her immediately for what she was, and nobody really was bothered by it or said anything about it. Except for Grady. He's like, she's a transvestite, and Crabtree's like, you're stoned. He goes, she's still a transvestite.
That's right.
Yeah. Well,
so that's Terry's date to WordFest, which is being hosted initially. The kickoff party is at Dr. Walter and Sarah Gaskell's house. She is the chancellor of the university.
Sarah Gaskell, played by, in my opinion, the finest actress working today.
She's one of them for sure.
I think Frances McDormand is probably the best actress out there right now. I can't think of somebody better.
Well, her performance was so nuanced in this. It was terrifying. She led us down a path at the end, which we can talk about, but with her facial features, with the way she looked, with her jittery movements, she was fantastic. And of course, she's married to John Boy Walton, which was a little weird.
Also known as Billy Boy from 1990's It.
Yeah.
He was unrecognizable in this movie, though, because I'd never seen him with a beard. So it took me quite a while to realize that it was him. But so Sarah is married to Walter Gaskell, who is Grady's boss at the university. Well, they're both technically his boss, because she's the chancellor of the entire university, and Dr. Walter Gaskell oversees the English department where Grady teaches. And meanwhile, Grady's having an affair with Sarah.
Unbeknownst to hubby.
His
Harvard degree did not even reveal that he was he's mounting his wife.
Yeah, he comes across as a very oblivious sort of person.
Well, he's intellectually self-involved, just like all the people that surround them. And that was one of the things that Ebert said, and that was the accurate portrayal of the campus life, because he said this movie recognizes some important things. First, that the students come and go. And second, that the faculty lives there. That's their entire life. And they spend entire cycles, like decades at a time, in the kind of grad situation. Like,
Yeah.
and they're just there over and over again every year. And he's like, even the weekends, I remember rambling around in a car, like looking for the next party and just being surrounded by people who were utterly self-indulgent and loaded, but they were so wrapped up in themselves that it just had that exact same air. Like, apparently this movie really captures that at the opening party at Sarah Gaskell's house.
Well, it's this, and I think this is sort of a theme too of college movies of this generation. It's this: we're all self-indulgent and we all hate it in everybody else.
Yes.
You know, but
Yes.
we still do it ourselves.
It's like low-key Gatsby kind of culture.
Yeah, it's like
there he is.
yeah. Well, like I said, you know, so
Oh.
Sin of a Woman.
Right.
First thing that comes to mind.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Second thing is the Emperor's Club.
I haven't seen either of these
that one.
movies.
You didn't see Son of a Woman?
Oh my God, you got to see Son of a Woman.
Oh my gosh, he's an army guy. You know, I'll forgive him for that because the performance is great.
Take
It's
it easy,
fantastic.
Tiger.
Yeah.
No, the Emperor's Club though, that is, in my opinion, the best, and this is saying something, the best Kevin Klein performance ever.
I was about to say, I love Kevin Klein in just about everything. That he's ever been in,
I've
so.
never seen a Kevin Klein movie I didn't like.
Same.
I've
He's
never seen it.
awesome.
I've never seen him do a performance that was less than great. And yeah, Emperor's Club,
Okay.
probably his best game. But this was a thing. There were these sorts of like slice of life movies where really the conflict wasn't so much that there was like an immediate conflict. It was more like these characters have lived their lives. Their lives are about to reach a turning point. Let's watch,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
you know.
And then, you know, they're going to be set upon by all these new sets of problems as life is wont to do to you. But you get to see them, you know, overcome just these particular obstacles, and then life keeps going. It's so accurate. It's not some big dragon that you have to slay or like a nice ribbon with a bow. At the end of the story, it just everything just evolves from where it ends in that particular cycle. And oh, the red cowboy boots with Katie Holmes.
Katie Holmes
I
is
know
in
you.
it.
I know you guys
almost-
didn't
yeah.
enjoy that.
No. But I must say, you know, Katie Holmes is in it, and you used a very derogatory term for her. In
I don't
this
know
film.
what you're talking about.
She said that she was a slut in this film.
That is not what I said.
What'd you say? What'd you say? Loose?
I said she was a bit skanky in this movie. because
Skanky.
She's like,
Trampy, maybe. Not skanky.
okay, yeah, skanky
Yeah,
implies a certain
yeah.
dirtier level.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Jade was looking through the lens of her eyes in judging her. Now I must say,
Now, who's speaking for whom?
I'm looking through my lenses. She said that she was skanky because she wanted to sleep with her 50-year-old
That is
professor.
not why. You're
Now, I
completely
must say-
misquoting me.
Mom, Dad, stop it.
I have nothing but the greatest respect for Katie Holmes, and
that
if
just
I met
made
her,
it so much worse. Oh,
if
I can
met
fix
her,
it.
Timmy,
I'd be-
go to your room.
I'd be okay with it.
Where that makes you the waffle. Anyway, no.
Can I
it's-
point out how subtle the movie is?
Oh,
Yes,
And I want to give an example that just happened.
this movie's subtle as hell.
It's so subtle. It hits you in the face with its subtlety. Immediately after the scene where Frances McDormand tells Michael Douglas that she's pregnant.
right.
Okay. We cut to the party and we see Michael Douglas walk up to Rip Torn, who is talking to Katie Holmes.
Who in Rip Torn is the Stephen King of this universe.
Yeah,
He has
yeah.
a new novel. Q.
I am Q. See, he has a goatee. Just
Yes, he's
like
got a
me,
name
so,
tag and everything.
I have
So
Q.
there's-
See, I got Q.
Yeah, Q completed a novel every 18
Q colors
months.
his beard, though.
I hated
know.
him.
I know.
Yeah, he colors.
Oh, of course he does. Nobody in this room colors their
Did
hair
you just
ever.
hiccup?
I did.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, but the thing is, in that scene, we see Michael Douglas walk up and he sort of goes around Katie Holmes and he's addressing Rip Torn.
Mm-hmm.
Katie Holmes very subtly puts a hand on his arm.
But then
And-
what does he do?
Well, wait. That wasn't the thing that caught my eye.
What was?
After that, it immediately cuts to a very quick shot of Frances McDormand looking and seeing it, and you just see the look on her face.
And she's jealous because Michael Douglas does go up and Katie Holmes does initiate that. She just puts her hand on Grady's arm and she's in the middle of talking to Q and Michael Douglas is like, if you want to impress Hannah, you gotta dust off your A material, because she just had an article published,
Yeah.
and then he just sort of strokes the back of her head kind of
Ooh, I like
intimately
that.
and walks away
Yes.
from her.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's what Frances McDormand is noting. And Rip Torn is like,
No, she looks before that. She looks, and then he does that.
no, that's what I'm saying. She saw that gesture, but then they focus on her just sort of icily staring across the room, and she doesn't. And once again, Ebert wrote the best review over this. He said she doesn't get hysterical about the pregnancy, but she does hold Grady. This is the part I'm adding. She does hold Grady to a certain standard of behavior, despite the fact that she understands his general lifestyle. He stays high on pot basically 24/7.
Yeah.
Strong pot.
Strong pot, and it's to a functioning level. He still teaches his classes, but you find out later in the movie that he does practically everything under the influence.
Yeah.
Including having written his first very successful book, and it happened to win a little award called the Penn Award,
Penn
which
Award,
I
of course.
accepted
Yeah.
under the influence. So,
Yes.
because Katie Holmes doesn't quite reprimand him later, but she has one of the best lines in the movie, which surprises me considering she has the Dawson's Creek, teeny bopper reputation in my mind, because that was the big show that she was on when I was growing up. But in this movie, she was telling him, or throwing his own words back at him from class. She's like, Grady, you know how you're always telling your students that writing is all about making choices? Well, with your book being 2,000 pages long and all single spaced, and you hear the genealogies of everyone's horses and their dental records and so on and so forth, it's like you didn't make any choices.
Yeah.
Well, that's what the whole movie's about.
That's about
exactly.
the whole movie.
And
that's the movie.
exactly, that's her articulating his
Yeah.
whole problem with his life, is that he
It's the
doesn't.
through line.
Yeah.
Yeah,
through line.
because the whole thing is Grady's wife did leave him that morning that our adventure begins upon, and you never see Emily. She leaves, and she's alluded to quite a few times. You even meet her parents, actually, when Grady and James break into their house later, but you never see Emily herself. But and Sarah, I think, was stuck in a similar rut, and what changed everything for her was obviously the pregnancy, because they were both staying with their spouses and just happy to be having an affair and carrying on with each other.
Right.
But then the pregnancy, forced her to make a decision, and she did.
Well, they were going through the motions
Yeah.
in their marriages. They were just,
Yeah, neither of them is happy.
no, they're not necessarily unhappy. Again, this is a sort of vibe you got a lot from movies like this,
Well,
where it was like, oh, my marriage ended.
They're,
Well, and it
they're
goes
a
back-
little leaf. They're a leaf in a creek.
Yeah.
Just washing down, not making any choices.
Right.
And it goes
Right.
back to that subtlety that you were talking about, Jason, because when Sarah does tell Grady that she's pregnant, he tells her, oh, well, that's pretty surprising. Does Walter know? And she goes, I think Walter would find this a little more than surprising.
By the
And-
way, we're going to cut it later on. We're going to do the recast it
Okay.
game.
Oh, absolutely.
I am going to tell you right now, what was the transvestite's first name?
Tony /
Tony.
Antonio.
Yeah, Tony.
Yes.
Brendan Fraser. I think he's made for the part. It'd be hilarious.
The legs wouldn't be as shapely.
No, that's
these
true.
days,
That's true.
but,
Yeah, Tony's got good legs.
Tony does, but yeah. So, like you said, they were going through the motions, but you have to pay attention to this movie to really appreciate it, because if you miss a line here or there, you're gonna. Speaking of which, can we do subtitles on this?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Thank you.
Because James just had this great monologue the way that Tobey Maguire fits into this movie is that both he and Hannah Green, Katie Holmes, are students of Grady's. And James, as Grady says it, he was the sole inhabitant of his own gloomy gulag. And he always writes incredibly real and substantial pieces, but they are always incredibly depressing. And the other students in workshop absolutely hate him, critique him to within an inch of his life. Like they claim to hate all of his stories.
Jealous.
Yeah, no, that's you're
Global
jealous.
talent.
But
Right.
but James is a bit of a creeper. He shows up at the WordFest preliminary party. He's standing outside,
Lurking. Leering.
lurking with a gun, like twirling a gun in his
Was
hands.
he going to, I wanted to ask you about that,
Okay.
because it's sort of the implication is given that he was going to kill himself, and then it's sort of, was it a real gun? Was it a fake gun? Which
He
of course,
claims it's a cap gun because Grady sees it and he's like, "You're out here with a gun," and he's like, "Oh, it's a cap gun. It's a memento from my childhood. My mom won it when she was going to Catholic
which is a
school."
lie.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
see, I don't think that he was going to kill himself. What I think is that James is the literary type that deliberately cultivates eccentricities to make himself seem like he has a more substantial personality. And there are plenty of literary types like that. It's like having a weird ask in your writer. Oh, I have to have bowls of green M&Ms or whatever. And
one time. I did that one time.
One time is all it takes.
God,
You're
I'm never
gonna
gonna
hear
live
the
it
end of
down.
it.
Sticks
Never
with
live
you.
it down.
I heard that was one wild sex party. They're supposed to be really good aphrodisiacs.
It would have been wilder if they had had the green fucking M&Ms.
It would have been wilder if there was anyone else at the party with you.
Oh, wah, wah.
I don't know.
I don't know. It's pretty wild, actually.
No inhibitions when there are no people around. Derailed.
Is it an orgy if it's only one person?
Yeah, because I'm going to back up my theory further with James because he spends the entire movie, spoiler alert, just building this elaborate and borderline ridiculous tapestry of what his life supposedly is, telling this story to Grady to garner sympathy and sort of influence Grady to let him stay with him for the weekend. They've got kind of a father son sort of feel going on with their relationship. Grady's an avuncular type in Tobey Maguire's life in this movie, and you don't really understand the motivation behind James wanting to stay with Grady. That's never really explained. He just has kind of a fixation on his professor because that's one of the few supportive people in his life, I suppose. But no, I don't think he was going to kill himself
he
outside
did
the
mention
Gaskell house.
distinctly that he was the reason he wanted to become a writer when he read his book.
That's true. He admires him, but he just gloms onto Grady's life in a very creepy fashion instead of...
He's eccentric.
He is. Well, no, I think he's purposely cultivated his eccentricity.
Do you think he lived in the bus station?
No.
Okay. No,
because
I
you
don't
saw
think so.
the house that he was living in. I mean, he may
My
have stayed
God,
a
the
night or
house.
two.
That basement lair,
Beautiful, yeah.
That,
it's like Spider-Man could live there. Wait a minute.
Was this pre or post?
We've got DC and Marvel fighting.
That's true.
Because Katie Holmes was in Batman.
That's true.
Oh, we've got to mention this.
Until she was recast. But
yeah. Sorry, Maggie.
Thanks, Tom.
You were both pretty good, but Maggie's the one who got killed off. Sadly.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
So I have to ask you, gentlemen. Jason, I know you didn't recognize. We talked about this off camera. Adam, did you recognize this dog when you watched this movie?
From the Little Rascals, of course.
No, he had a circle around his eye.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
But they added that.
yeah.
No, I don't know. Who is he from?
That is Chance from Homeward Bound, voiced by Michael J. Fox.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
Now, are
And
you sure they weren't in the Little Rascals also?
He might have
We
been.
must look that up.
I didn't look it up. I just know when I watched the movie because Homeward Bound was one of my favorites growing up, and then when I saw this later in life, it didn't seem, as if it could belong on the same timeline because I watched this movie something like 10, 12 years later. But they were made relatively close together. It's just, this wasn't a movie that I would have watched in '99 because it wouldn't have held my interest when I was about like 11 years old. But that's Chance, and it's actually two identical American bulldogs. And to give them the effect, because Hindsighters, if you don't know, Poe belongs to Dr. Gaskell, Sarah's husband. And that's just the literary basic bitch move to get an animal and name it something like Poe. I'm sorry,
It
but
wasn't named in the book. It was a different name.
Yes, that's
I
true.
can't
The book
remember.
is incredibly different, but the movie, I think, still captures the spirit and the essence of the book properly.
Yeah.
Because Emily, you actually, Grady's ex-wife, you actually meet her. She's an Asian American woman instead of a young Caucasian woman. And she actually takes part in some of the story. There's a snake that dies alongside the dog. Like, there are a lot of other weird, eccentric things happening. But
And the person who says "take a bow, James" is not Gray.
Who is
Grady.
it?
It's Katie Holmes' character, isn't it?
I don't remember.
I think it is.
I was actually asking you.
Oh
Who
no,
is it?
I think it's. I can't remember Katie Holmes' character name.
Hannah.
Hannah. I think it's Hannah.
Oh, it might
who
be. I
does
need
it.
to
Yeah.
reread the book because it's delightfully eccentric. But so Poe, the dog, Walter Gaskell's dog, hates Grady because
Grady is Stupping, his master,
yes, no,
Yes.
his master's wife.
female master.
Well, in a way, he's also.
Yeah,
you know,
that's true.
Stupping both of them.
Fair enough. So Poe finally corners Grady and attacks him, and you come to find that James's cap gun is in fact a real gun because he shoots poor Poe.
And kills him.
Yeah, and as sad as it made me, this is one of the few movies where there's a dead dog, and I don't get genuinely upset.
It's
And I
so
don't know how this
cartoony.
movie
It is
pulled
very-
it off.
Yeah, it's because it's like you're watching it on stage.
Yep.
You
Yeah.
know, and you see a fake dog fall. It's hard to think of Poe as a real dog.
It kind of is,
Yeah.
especially with the blind context that both of the dogs had to wear. But that leads to one of the funnier lines where it's like, wow, this car fits, and I'm not going to get it right, but this car fits a tuba, a suitcase, a dead dog almost perfectly. And Grady's like, yep, that's just what they used to say in the ads.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
and it's just this whole movie.
You know what the car is, right?
It's a Galaxy, right? Ford No. Yeah, Ford Galaxy.
Yeah,
wasn't it?
because they have
1960s.
some of the car
Ford
choices.
Galaxy 500.
Yeah, some of the car choices in this movie are a bit off because I don't know anyone who would go out and buy a Citroen DS. I mean, honestly, because that's what
Sarah drives.
Sarah drives a Citroen DS,
And it's not suitable for their climate. I mean,
It
it's
is.
all.
It's not suitable for Earth.
Well, I'll have you know, my junior high band director was a dealer of Citroens. He drove a Citroen.
He had a DS.
He had a DS, yes. And I remember I was like, what kind of car is that? Oh, it's a French car.
Was he late for work often?
Did they break down pretty
Yeah,
often?
yeah.
Well, it's not a
Is that
Fiat.
the joke, Ted?
That's true. Yeah.
You know what
yeah.
a Fiat stands for, right? Fix it again, Tony.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sort of like Ford.
Right.
Fix,
It came
fix
from
or repair
Turin,
daily.
Italy, Linda. That's where they make Fiats. So
I have a question. Did you see the symbolism with him getting bit by the dog and having to limp through the entire movie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it's just like he's like limping through
Yeah.
life.
Well,
Yeah.
that's sort of the one of the
that comes full circle with one of the lines later too, and Robert Downey Jr. reads that one, even though it's technically from James, because it's a piece that James was writing about Grady. Because as the movie finally does start to come full circle, Robert Downey Jr. sneaks a peek at Tobey Maguire's typewriter, and he says he limped into the room like a limping prize fighter, beaten.
Yes.
And it ends with just one of the most poignant lines where it's like, his heart beat now, his heart once so capable of inspiring others couldn't even inspire so much as itself. It beat now only out of habit. It
That's
beat
right,
now
that's
only
right.
because it could.
Well-
And it's an incredibly poignant movie while being hysterical at the same time. It has a perfect balance.
Yeah, it really does. And his going back to the subtlety angle,
Mm-hmm.
the fact that he is a wreck. You know, you at the end of the movie, it's very clear he's a
Right,
wreck.
yeah.
He's a complete wreck.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
But it's not something that you get hit over the head with right away. As you hang out with Grady, what's his last name?
Trip.
Trip. As you hang out with him, you realize how broken he is.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, but it's not something that, like, you know, the first scene of the movie, he's not passed out on the floor drunk or something like
right.
that, you know. So it's like real life. That's how you find out actual people are like that. You get to know them and you realize, ooh,
Well, and the thing is, it's not even really his substance abuse that puts him on the floor. It's this existential dilemma that he's going through because he calls them episodes, but
Spells. I like to call them spells.
James calls them spells. And he's like, Christ, James, I'm not in a Tennessee Williams play. I don't get spells. But he does have, and he was like, what would you call them? Episodes. So, yeah, Trip just has these problems where he just occasionally gets dizzy, gets the vapors, and just falls right over.
well, and he has a little David Lynch moment whenever this happens.
Oh, absolutely. Which I love.
Yeah,
The
it's-
light coming up.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right? And there's Francis McDormand.
Yeah. So he does have these fainting episodes, and we missed a pretty great moment where Rip Torn, you see just how pompous and full of himself that he is. Where
Q. Call me Q.
Hey, he's in charge of the Men in Black, and he's got a right to be
That's right.
pompous.
I mean,
important
he has no
man.
right to be pompous. We're not hosting an intergalactic kegger here. But there's a moment where Q, he's giving a speech, and he pontificates about piloting the boat of
Oh, it's
inspiration to the
so-
shore of achievement. And James just gives out this cackle, and they're in this huge hall, and it echoes everywhere and just brings the talk to a screeching halt. Everyone just turns and looks at him, and then he just goes back to speaking. But
Yep.
that's when Grady has his episode, and Sarah has already lost her patience with him because like I said, she doesn't really get upset over the fact that they're having an affair. Like she accepts the reality of who Grady is and what they're doing together as a couple. But what upsets her is his lack of decision making. Like she knows what she's going to do. She's like, I'm not going to have this baby. But and so she falters a little bit, but then she's the one who really decides to keep it. And
Well, it's
She-
part of
she-
her test of Trip.
Well,
Right,
and plus, like, she even tells him, she's like, I'm not going to draw you a map, Grady. Times like these, you got to do your own navigating. And she makes it very clear that whatever her decision is, it's going to be her decision and to spark some sort of decision from him. And it ultimately works. It's just that she has to play the long game with him, basically. She's got to lead the horse to water.
Well, she has that late 90s strong woman, we're lovers, if you find that shocking. So be it. kind of vibe
Michael
going on.
Gray!
Oh, that's in this movie.
That's too funny.
This movie needs TV's Michael Gray. He could, in fact,
he could be the transvestite.
Ooh.
Oh, I was going to say James.
Yeah.
He's too old to be James.
Yeah, that's
now.
true.
No,
we
but
don't have to go with
maybe
age.
not.
That's
right?
true.
That's a good point.
Shazam.
That was 20 years ago. TV's Michael Gray.
But yeah, so we've pretty much covered the basis of it. And what's cool about these characters is they cover every walk of life damn near in the literary world as far as success and lack of success. So you have the Gaskells who run the university and they run a department. They're successful in the literary world. And even though she's the chancellor of the university, Michael Douglas has this line about how she is a junkie for the written word, and lucky for me, I manufacture her drug of choice.
Yes.
So everybody's very immersed in the literary world. He's a professor, and that, he's a tenured professor, you come to find, but that's pretty much the only thing keeping his job, as his job. And then you have Crabtree, who's kind of faltering in his own career through no fault of his own. Yeah, and Michael Douglas is about in his 50s.
Yeah.
Crabtree's about in his 30s.
Well, I think it is Crabtree's fault a little bit.
Well, he puts too many eggs in the Grady basket.
Yeah.
He needs to have other clients that he relies on because it's like you said, they have such a personal friendship that he just thought Grady was going to be his gravy train.
Yeah.
I suppose, because the first book was such a critical success.
Is it friendship?
It's like
I think that's an open question.
dysfunctional symbiosis.
It could be. It could be friendship.
Well, friendship takes many forms.
It does.
Okay,
I mean,
sure.
just look at these three idiots in this studio.
I know.
So.
We're a group of oddballs.
That was a guy?
Oh my God.
Sorry, Tony just took his wig off.
That just took me out of the movie.
Oh my God, I got to go home to mom and dad. Oh my God.
Well, and another thing Ebert does point out is how there's so much emotional payoff in this movie. It's more honest that way because when Crabtree hooks up with the transvestite, it's clearly to have sex, and he does have sex with Tony. He uses him and just moves on because he immediately moves on to James when James has that huge monologue about all the famous movie suicides.
Yes.
Which, who was it, Alan Ludd?
Alan Ladd?
Alan Ladd.
He was in the original monologue, and they had to change it in post because Alan Ladd's family sued, saying that he was deemed accidental death or something. It wasn't considered a suicide, so they had to take that out in post.
Come
and
on,
it's
guys,
not,
nobody cares.
It's not in it wasn't in the theatrical version, and they had to take it out of the DVDs, VHS, like all that. So they removed it.
I was more sad about George Saunders' death.
Yeah.
1972. Do you know what role George Saunders played in the Batman series?
Do tell.
Mr. Freeze.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, it talks about Pierre Angeli, Donald Redberry, Charles Boyer, Charles Butterworth, and he's like, this guy pills, this person a lot of pills, like, and it's like a 1.5 minute monologue of him just straight naming the people who committed suicide and how they did it, and one of them writing his own suicide note on his stomach in lipstick. It's pretty dark,
And it all comes from one book. There's one Hollywood
Is
history.
that right?
Yeah, that he
I was
lived.
not aware of that.
Yeah,
I must
there's a
have
book
it.
that lists it just like that. But now we do need to take a break.
Okay.
Let's be sure to
Let's
pause
hold
it though,
that
because
thought.
we got to talk about this game.
Yes.
That's
Well, yeah,
coming up in the movie.
we're in the scene where Rip Torn, remembers why
clearly
he loves being an actor.
Yeah.
Because it's the only way somebody like Katie Holmes will touch him.
Absolutely.
But we will be back in about 1 second.
Thereabouts.
And we're back.
It's good to be back.
No.
Wow.
So we were just discussing extracurriculars.
Activities with pickles. Pickle Rick.
And hiding them.
Ooh, I was trying to keep that hidden.
So we are continuing. We are continuing to watch
Wonder Boys.
Scent of
Yeah.
Emperor's Club.
Scent of an Emperor Dead Poet Society.
You guys got to go see the Ghostbusters movie.
We are.
Okay.
Let's go see it together.
We'll
I'm
see it
serious.
together with
I'm
the
in.
children.
It's a theme in this episode. that I keep,
The adults will sit in their own section and have adult drinks, and the kids can just be cool and sit anywhere.
Yeah, and they got to
where
pay
we-
for their own drinks.
Exactly. They got to run their own tab.
Yeah.
But,
But
so,
I love this scene when they're together because it's like 3 generations
yes.
in
Yes.
that booth. So
You
you've
got
got, the young,
James,
middle-aged,
Crabtree,
older.
and Grady.
And I must say, I can relate to all of them at different phases in my life, which I mentioned before.
Surely not. You haven't reached your 50s yet.
No, I have not. But
I
when
relate to
do,
Ula.
When I
So let's explain that.
somebody relates to Ula, that's
So,
for sure.
Vernon.
Crab-
She's got a
Crabtree-
belly.
Crabtree first he makes Tony jealous by inviting James up to this place on the hill. I always get Trip to take me, and it's a bar where they're hanging out, and the waitress's name is Ula. And she delivers Grady his double dickle on the rocks, and the guys, I think,
dickle.
hide the dickle.
George Dickel.
I think you guys and I would be really good at this game that Crabtree
Oh,
and
yeah.
Grady play,
Oh, that
where
would be fun.
he's
yes.
sipping his whiskey and he's just like, "Oh my God, do you see what I see?" And there's this African American gentleman in the corner, and they start saying like, "President of the James Brown Club, James Brown Hair Club for Men.
He looks like
He's a flyweight. No, he's a jockey, and is he's addicted to pain pills. He can't even pee standing up anymore." Like they're making up his whole backstory. And the problem here is that before they started playing this game, Crabtree finds out that James has a book of his own that he's written,
Right.
and he's asking Grady if James is a good writer, and Grady says no, that he's got a gift, but that he's not quite there yet. But while they're playing the game, because they think James is passed out from an earlier dose of codeine and whiskey that he spits up on Trip in the parking lot, and then ingests it later, so they think he's completely passed out. But then he jumps in on their game and says, "Oh, yeah, Vernon was killed when a gangster named Freddie Nostrils killed his favorite horse since he's a jockey." And his mother blames Claudel, his brother, for Vernon's death because Claudel was in on the hit on the horse. And they're like,
It's just-
that.
It's
they're like-
brilliant.
Well, yeah, and that's sort
I
of
love
the
it.
You could be forgiven for saying that the movie is about James's, becoming the author that he evidently has the talent to be.
Well, from James's perspective, it is, but from Grady's perspective, it isn't, and neither. It's not.
Well,
from Hannah's. Everybody's got a different story going.
Yeah, I would say that that Lear is the antagonist
James Lear, yeah.
because he really doesn't change.
No, he doesn't.
No.
He
No.
actually just becomes even more self-indulgent in his personality. But
Goes to New York to get his book ready for publication.
That's
yeah,
right.
because he gets a free pass, like for all this bad behavior, killing the chancellor's dog and all this stuff, stealing the jacket, which we haven't brought up yet. But going back to the game they were playing, the importance of that was that Grady realizes that James heard him say that he's not a good writer, and so he feels badly about that. But Ula, the waitress, she's a bit of payoff later. She comes back into the
Yes.
story unexpectedly.
Yes.
Because at the Gaskell's house, you find out that James, after that big monologue with all of the dead celebrities, he's a huge fan of old movies, and that comes up several times throughout this film, to the point where Grady's like, "Hey, I want to show you something," and takes him up to the Gaskell's bedroom, opens the safe, and they see the jacket that Marilyn Monroe wore on her wedding day to Arthur Miller.
No.
Yeah.
Joe DiMaggio.
Joe
Oh, that's right,
DiMaggio.
because Gaskell's writing a book about it.
Yeah.
Well,
But
you
she
did
was
not-
married to Arthur Miller at some point,
Yes,
wasn't
Yeah, she was.
Oh, okay.
married to many people. But you didn't see the picture? Did you not recognize Joe DiMaggio from his picture?
No, I did.
Child?
I'm
Jolton Joe.
No, I'm messing with you now. but one thing I just want to bring up, this movie is so well put together. Every single event has an effect, right? A
Yes.
serious effect later in the film.
Oh, it's all payoff.
It's
Yeah.
Set up, payoff.
It's all
Yeah.
beautiful, subtle, and
it's tied up in a beautiful bow at the end.
Very, very subtle. I mean,
Yeah.
without being
even,
shoehorned. Like
yeah.
it's
Right.
that deliciously
No.
subtle.
Oh my God, it was so subtle.
I think everybody's performance can really sort of be described as subtle. Katie Holmes, it's subtle and perky. What's that? At the same
Doubly
time,
perky.
she
Yes.
pulls that off. She
She
rides
does.
that
Especially
line.
even without wearing a bra at
Oh,
some
how-
points.
I did not even notice.
Of course you did. I wonder if those ones are real. But anyway.
They were. Yes.
Yeah, at least at the time they were.
Right.
Yeah.
Perhaps not
Oh
now.
my.
Because she is 41. She's old.
I love that you know exactly how old she is.
I was really wow. I didn't know she was.
Oh, I looked her up. I read everything about her. I was like James Lear.
Oh,
I leered at her. Anyway, proceed,
Ew.
gang. Proceed.
Yeah, so there's a ton of payoff, and the payoff with the Marilyn Monroe thing is you don't really understand why Dr. Gaskell has all of this memorabilia, but then you really start to see that it's Joe DiMaggio, Marilyn Monroe specific, because he's writing a book about them as a married couple, which is actually some payoff and some and very helpful to James at the end, because Crabtree, in order to get James out of trouble with the police and to keep Gaskell from pressing charges against for shooting his dog and stealing his memorabilia, Crabtree's like, oh, I'll publish that book too. Why not? And Gaskell gets kind of a dig at his wife because he decides that he's going to title the book after he discovers Sarah's affair with Grady. He's like, I've decided to entitle it "The Last American Marriage." And it's just
which the reaction shot from Frances McDormand
was
when he says
amazing.
that.
she was just like, you know what?
Fuck
yeah,
you.
But
all right,
well,
fine.
yeah, but
Like,
no, there's a little electric shock,
yeah.
and then it's that. But
Well-
it's a very just like.
Well, I don't even think that it's shock. Like, oh my God, I can't believe he's she doesn't even get her feelings hurt by it. I think she was impressed that he finally showed some damn personality, because
I'm not going to go with you on that one.
okay.
But it
don't
could
care.
be. It could be.
See if I care. I don't care. But yeah, that was his because he pays her no mind, and he never really seems to realize that. And he's the one who's hurt because he's the one who got cheated on. I get that, but he's if he hasn't, if he would,
Cuckold, I believe is the word.
he was cuckolded. Speaking
Very
of
true.
English terms, this movie has a very special English actor in it.
And boy, does it ever.
Who is it, gentlemen?
Alan Tudyk.
Yes,
I love him.
He's
He is
amazing.
amazing. Even in this role, it's a small role, but it's it's critical.
it's a
Oh,
decent
yeah.
role for what it is.
Yeah.
And so he's the janitor at, I guess, the one janitor.
Is he also a student?
Huh?
Is he also a student? I don't
singer?
know why I got that vibe.
No.
Okay.
If he is, it's never indicated. He's the janitorial staff, and so Tripp goes back to the university because when James got high, he left his knapsack at the hall where they had the Word Fest kickoff, and so Tripp goes to recover it, and Traxler, the janitor, lets him in and has to give him a ride home. And what's the conversation that they had on the way to take Grady home, Mr. Brown? Because I thought you in particular would appreciate this
This
reference
scene right here.
Yes.
Oh, about Errol Flynn. Yes.
Because I know your love for Errol Flynn.
Of course. Well, they talk about Errol Flynn, which in Like Flynn, and then in Like Flint, with James Coburn, which the movies. But he was known for his sexual prowess. And Alan Tudyk asked, did he like spread something on? Oh yeah,
Paprika.
Yeah, he put paprika on, lamb chops, hot sauce.
He asked if he
on his dick.
yeah,
that is.
to make it more stimulating
Yeah.
for the chick. And great, because Grady's like, why are you asking me about this? He goes, aren't you reading his autobiography? And he's, oh yeah, of course. He used to rub all sorts of things on it, ground lamb, salad dressing.
It's like, damn.
He's like sick.
How bad must you be at sex to think I'll put paprika on my dick and maybe she'll like it more?
Ugh.
You have to be pretty
of
bad.
Because of all the spices, gentlemen. That's not the right one.
Yeah, which is the right? This
We
is
call-
valuable consumer
It's not a
information.
spice. He was seasoning it.
Yes.
Okay, it's dignified.
Donate to our website, and I might release that information.
Well, you have to realize, as a
Cumin.
famous actor, you get all this. You get all this
Well, when fall hits, it's all about the pumpkin spice.
but you get all the sex you want, so you got to take it to the next level. Right?
Yeah.
So Errol Flynn did all kinds of crazy stuff. Maybe
Did he
that
ever
was
bite
part
a
of
lemon?
it. Ooh, you'll have to ask.
That might
him.
not have been a thing back then, you know?
Who knows?
I mean,
Maybe David Carradine invented it.
Woodhouse's friend, he was doing it back in the First World War, so.
Reggie.
But later
But he never
on,
drinks water because there's fish
I
shit
have two
in it.
questions.
No, because
that-
fish fucking it.
Oh yeah.
Is
that's
that
why.
what it is? I've never heard the uncensored version.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
why
it.
you don't drink water.
Yeah, that's in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Marcus Brody says, "No, thank you. Fish make love in it." Yeah.
I knew that, but
Yeah.
like the way that it's censored, it sounded like there was a T on the
No,
end of the word instead of
fish
a K
fuck
sound.
in it.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I thought it was fish shit in it.
No.
I mean, either way, it's bad, but it's like, oh my God. Okay.
Depends on your kink, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
Ugh.
Mm-hmm.
Ew.
Ew. Ew.
Doogie sticks.
Gotta throw something in there.
He's a fecophiliac.
Oh. But it's got to be a certain quality. Yeah.
So the
Jim has stolen the coat.
yes, which ends up being sort of a MacGuffin
Maryland's
because it
coat.
really doesn't matter that he stole the coat.
Well,
Well,
I
it-
think it does.
It would have mattered
because-
if Crabtree hadn't have decided to publish Gaskell's book.
Yeah,
Because
okay.
James would have gone to prison and been expelled, but how it works out since Crabtree swoops in and rescues him is that Gaskell doesn't press charges and doesn't expel James, but that's why I was saying James becomes more self-indulgent because, well, he quit anyway to go to New York and work on his book.
Yeah.
It's like he got a second chance at life and basically said F you to the people who were handing it to him.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, follow
he
your
was
life,
young,
follow your
right?
life path, but still.
See, I actually liked that because if this was a different movie, like Dead Poets Society, James
God.
wouldn't have. He would have decided that no, he didn't want to be a commercial writer, and he's not. His book is perfect, and
I want to stay in school so I can be a professor just like you, Trip.
Yeah,
you're
something
right.
like that. Whereas in
You're
this one, he wrote a book. It's very good. A publisher wants to publish it.
The Love
He's
Parade.
going to go do that.
Right.
Am I the only
You
one
know.
that wants to read that book
I
desperately?
don't.
I wish it was a real
absolutely
book.
don't want to.
No, I would totally read it. But why don't you want to read it?
I just
He's busy man.
I don't
Very
know.
busy man.
It sounds like just one of those kind of books that is a bit too self-indulgent for my taste.
Well, that's the type of author that he is. So.
I know. I'm not. I don't think I would be a huge James Lear fan.
I don't know. I think I might because one of the other insightful things that Katie Holmes says in the beginning, because she's one of his few friends and she defends him against his other classmates who are overly critical of him in workshop. And she's like, I think maybe we're missing the point of his story. He respects us enough as his audience to forget us, and that takes courage. And that's true. So there is a level of self-indulgence that's required for you to build a world and really believe that it's worth reading about. So I don't know. I think there's a necessary amount of self-indulgence to being a good writer, but you can
I
be
agree.
overly
I agree.
self-indulgent for sure.
Yeah. Well, it's like anything creative. I mean, you've got your idea of what it's supposed to be, and you
have to believe in it.
Yeah.
If you don't believe in it, you're not going to continue to pursue it. You're going to take that job in healthcare information technology and just live out the rest of your days.
You wind up on a crummy podcast in a public theater or a small town theater company.
What is it that he who cannot do teaches? That's anyway.
That is literally going to be us.
Speaking of which, we have a series of workshops coming up soon.
Yeah.
I think
One
that's a nice
of which,
segue.
one of which is for podcasting.
Yes,
They're
podcasting.
going to be good. I'm self-indulgent enough to at least tell you that.
And we're teaching and acting.
Yes,
Yes, we are.
for people in the
Beatrice and
greater
Benedict together again.
in the greater North Fulton
And
area.
the greater Sydney area. So
Yes.
if you're from Sydney,
If you're from
Australia,
Sydney, yeah.
come on down.
I wonder if any of your children will be participating in these workshops. We might not be cool enough for them.
No.
Oh, my kid has no interest whatsoever, so I'm good there.
That's fun.
No, we will be teaching a series of workshops
Yes, we will.
starting in March, running through May-ish. We will be, my co-hosts will be teaching a workshop, a 7-week intensive, not really, workshop on stage acting. So if
Yes,
you
we will.
would like to be taught how to act,
Come on down.
I will be teaching a workshop in podcasting, and my wife Elaine will be teaching musical theater, and they're going to be doing the youth version of Sound of Music.
Ooh, it's
All
gonna be
available.
good.
Go to
Yes.
citycenterplayers.com.
See,
Look
that's
at that.
that's a beautiful thing about
Yeah.
a theater degree. You may not know how to solve a math problem, but you will know how to solve a problem like Maria.
That's true. With extreme prejudice.
Anyway, that was a bad joke that I
yeah.
stole. Sorry,
We
Hindsighters.
loved it.
So anyhow, we find ourselves at Tripp's house, which I would totally live in this house. Would you guys?
yeah.
'Cause
Oh my
it's
God,
so
it's a
great.
great house.
Yes, absolutely.
We have lived in houses like that, haven't we, Jason?
yeah.
Yeah,
you
Mine
guys-
mine
in
mine
college.
weren't quite as neat.
Oh,
Yeah.
Mine had more things falling
And
slightly.
yours were
you know.
haunted with
That is true.
pentagrams and like other crazy shit.
That is, and yet we still moved in
Yes.
because that was college.
The first red flag, hindsighters here with this story is that they had to break into the house despite the
Yeah.
fact that they were issued a key.
Well, we had to break in, and to be honest, before we discovered the pentagram, we found the bullet hole in
in the window.
in
So
the window.
like 40
so-
red flags in the first 10 minutes.
Not even a
Oh,
walkthrough.
I want to address. By the way, this is I think a very important decision that the director made.
Yes.
The first time the police do get involved, because we have a dead
dead
dog,
stolen
Yeah.
Marilyn's jacket.
like $30,000 of movie memorabilia.
Right.
A very expensive thing. When the police officer arrives, we see a point of view. We see Tripp's point of view looking through the window. We see the police car pull up. Cop gets out.
And forgets to put the car in park.
Yeah, and it was so well done that when I was watching it, I thought, they forgot to put the car in park.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, no, that's supposed to happen. It's scripted. Oh, I'm not supposed to take this officer seriously.
Exactly.
Right.
Because
Thank you for communicating that, writer and director.
Yeah,
Gentle.
because Grady calls him a couple of different hateful nicknames. He calls him like the puberty
Yeah,
police,
the puberty police.
and Officer Pupchick, and like he's like, oh yeah, this like 12-year-old police officer comes to my house asking me where James Lear is, and Grady defends James. He doesn't hand him over, which he kind of probably should.
He doesn't in the end.
No, he has to because they
Yeah.
know that he's there. I mean,
Yeah,
the jig is up. It's not like Grady can hide him anymore. So James actually finds Grady now that they're both awake, because James is viciously hungover, as we come to find later in the movie from his.
Or is he?
You gotta wonder.
Or is he faking that?
Well, and then he stays stoned with Grady almost the entire time that they're
Yeah.
together. So they're both laced on something the entire time. But James, Grady has another episode at his typewriter, and you see just how enormous the book is. And he's like, people think I'm suffering from writer's block. I'm not, but I can't. The ending, no matter what I did, it kept getting further away, but it was there. I could almost see it. And so everybody's really surprised when they find out that he's been writing this entire time. They think that he just has lost his gift, which he hasn't. But Grady has an episode and wakes up on the floor, and he's trying to cover his tracks kind of poorly. He's like, "Oh, James, don't worry, I just fell down." And James is like, "Dude, I put you on the floor.
Yeah.
Like,
Right,
come
right.
on, quit lying to yourself." So
But I love when he said that, the book was like between 250 and 300 pages, and he types 261 and then types
adds another one.
2,611 pages.
It had become a little larger in scope.
Yes. So.
And it's amazing to think that even still at this point in movie was shot in 99,
right.
Right.
that you still had authors who were typing on individual sheets of paper
Right.
and setting themselves up for the possibility that, I don't know, maybe a breeze could blow all of those papers away
Well,
and you lose the book forever.
and he finds himself in an impossible arena, but we can get back to that later, because Crabtree has a theory on why all of these crazy antics have taken place. But that's sort of a symbolic thing in and of itself, that he's still writing on a typewriter when he could so easily acquire a computer. That's part of his transition in the end, because don't you notice that he's writing on a laptop?
And he saves it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because they make a big deal. So we're not going terribly long with this episode, because we've all agreed, hindsighters, that there's no contention, because this movie's fantastic.
It's wonderful. Yeah.
Oh wait, I don't want to speak for you guys. I'll let
It's
you say it
great.
out loud on your own.
No, that's fine.
You
I don't
speak
care.
for me. It was great, just like she said.
But
Well,
I'm gonna slap you so hard.
yeah,
But-
and it's a genre of movie that we don't see. It's not just a question of they don't make good movies anymore. They do.
It's character
rare, but
driven,
they do.
instead of relying too heavily on the plot.
Well, we were talking a little bit before the show about how there was a time when New York theater was the source of everything good that was a TV show or a movie. And this feels like something that I would go see on a Saturday night at a theater and watch people perform on stage.
Oh, 100%. Ooh, there's your adaptation.
What?
We could do this.
Oh, God, how much does that cost?
Yeah.
I don't know.
That would be
Yeah.
tough. I'd rather
See,
just
buy
steal
tickets
someone
to our
else.
workshops.
Yeah.
This will have to become a lost episode.
It'll go in the vault.
Yeah.
No, but so now Grady, he kind of half-assed tries to solve his problems throughout the weekend. So
Yeah.
he's still got Poe dead in the trunk. He's still got the stolen jacket. He's still got James with him, but he drops off a little thinking of you balloon with Sarah, and he's like, we need to talk. And she finally sort of expects some sort of decision out of him. And all he says is that he wants to be with her. And she's like, gee,
Yeah,
Grady,
he's
how
nebulous.
heartfelt. Yeah, she can
nebulous.
sense his indecision. And she's, I don't think she's one of those women who just pontificates about being strong. She actually is. She's like, listen, I'm doing this with or without you. Get over it. And if you can't navigate, then it's just not good enough for me. Sorry.
Yeah, she's comfortable being alone.
Yeah.
She's comfortable either having the child or not by herself.
Yeah, she's one of those people, like, I think she rapidly becomes one of those people that she keeps you around if you improve upon the silence.
Well, I think that she would want to be with him, but only if he actually was willing to do that committing in his mind.
Right.
And ultimately, that's his whole character, is a coward.
A floater.
Yeah.
He just floats along.
Yeah, becoming someone.
He's a nomad.
Yeah, becoming someone who says, no, I will assert and I will, shape my own life, and then he's rewarded. That's actually the ending of the movie.
It is. And
Right.
Is surprising to me.
Well, and Sarah, I love the little jabs she takes at him at some points, because she sees James sitting in Grady's car and she's like, isn't that James Lear? What's he doing in your car just sitting up there? And he's like, oh, he's having some problems and I'm helping him through them. And she's like, gee, isn't he lucky? And just walks away.
Well, he's notoriously non-committal.
Yeah.
And I think,
Except to things that don't deserve his commitment. Like, James doesn't.
but I'm talking
not
about
that Grady
to the relationship with Sarah.
Yes.
Women, you can validate
do
that.
tell.
Women will love you for a certain period of time, and then there is a decision point that needs to be made. And if you don't make that, they will move on.
Oh, yeah.
And that is the pregnancy. They were able to limp along because they were both married. They were having extramarital affairs. Now she's pregnant. It's driving a decision.
Yeah.
And he is being nebulous. And the way that the movie leads you to believe, which I love, you think she's moved on. I mean, you think that she's okay. She's going to get the abortion. She's going to stay with her husband, and she's done with it.
Yeah.
Right. But then there's a little twist at the end,
And
which
she
is very nice.
Yeah, and
I won't tell you.
Yeah,
You gotta watch the movie.
Well,
We're going to get
no,
to it.
Okay.
No, but it is true, because he avoids decisions,
Like
and-
the plague. Yeah.
and she knows him well enough
Right.
to know, if I do this, he's either going to finally make a decision or he's not, and I'm done.
That's right. I'm out.
Yep. Great character. Fantastic character.
They all are. And I just love the random bits of texture throughout the movie that don't even need a payoff, like Grady's pink robe, for instance.
Yeah.
When James finds him, he just sort of gives him a funny look, finding his, mature male professor in a lady's bathrobe. And he's like, oh, you must miss her really bad, huh? And he goes, oh, no, this is my robe. It wasn't Emily's. It didn't belong to her. And he goes, I guess there's probably a story behind that. And he's like,
No,
there
not
is,
really.
but
No.
there
No.
is, but it's not very interesting.
Right.
And then James turns that around on him later. Where I can't remember the moment, but Grady's like, I guess there's a story there. And James goes, there is, but it's not very interesting. So there's just a little bit of payoff for that moment, but you never understand where the robe came from.
Well, that's
like
that's just the little bits of
I know,
writing.
random
It's
texture.
It's
I love
so
it.
friendly. It's just, it's like biting into something, and there's
And correct me if I'm
richness to
wrong,
it.
but
it's a parfait. It's got layers.
I think if he has written his entire life with an electric IBM typewriter, it would be hard for him to make a transition to computer.
Yeah.
And I noticed that James
Was it
types,
difficult for you, Mr. Brown?
if I could ever write anything, yes, it might have been difficult, but I'm an actor. Anyway, that was my impression. That was my impression because, it's tough to make that transition because it's a different keyboard, it's a different sound, and there's a certain amount of superstition that has to go with being a writer.
Well, and also, let's not forget that in 1999, the laptops were basically shit.
Yeah.
That's true.
Which I'm surprised he had a laptop.
And there's a certain nostalgia factor to it as well. I mean, when I was in college, I hated the transition from phones with buttons to phones with just the touchscreens, because my mom once asked me why it was suddenly illegal to text in your car when people had been texting for over a decade. And I said, well, because of this. And I hid my phone behind my back, and I typed out a text to her, and she was like, what? And looks at it, and she goes, did you just type that without looking at it? I said, yeah. When I had buttons on my phone, I could sit in class, I could be paying attention to the professor, but I had the keyboard memorized and how many times I had to press each button to get a certain letter or punctuation mark. you can't do that with touchscreens. So now people are driving, doing this and staring down when they should be looking at the road, and there are more fatalities and accidents in general. And she was like, oh, that makes sense. I was like, so going back to your argument about the keyboard is that I'm particular about the type of keyboard that I have even on my desktop. I love my desktop keyboard. I hate my laptop keyboard. It's too smooth, and there's not enough indentation or differentiation between the buttons. I don't like it. So I think there's just nostalgia to it, because back in the 90s when we got our first shared desktop, it was kind of like clacking on a typewriter because the keys were so stiff.
Well, I actually have a mechanical keyboard specifically because it feels every button is an individual mechanical button.
Yeah, it's like a click.
Yeah,
Click.
and it feels so much better.
See, that I would like. The only aspect of your keyboard that would drive me banana sandwich is the fact that it lights up when
you can turn
touch
that
it.
off.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
the people who keep it on, what's the purpose of it? The lights?
There's no purpose.
Just aesthetic?
Yeah,
There's
it's just,
there's
yeah,
no
it's just
psychological.
entertaining. Yeah.
Okay, because it
It's
would
part of
drive
the
me
game.
to distraction.
Look, I just rebuilt a computer, and
Ooh la la.
Ooh, I'm leaving now.
it's pretty easy.
Eek Barbadurkle.
No, funny story. So I'm gonna buy some RAM because one of the DIMMs went out on the
He's already
machine that
lost.
I had. It was acting up, so I bought some RAM. It was some 2120 RAM.
Yeah, those are just numbers to me.
And the problem
Clicks and
is
whistles,
that
clicks and whistles.
I realized that it was actually the motherboard that was
Oh,
broken, so
not
I had
the
to get a new
fatherboard.
motherboard.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
Which meant I had to get a new processor, new ATX case, power,
Can you imagine?
PSU, all that stuff.
Reaction.
But every single component that I bought, like if you
Uh-huh.
don't want it to have lights, you have to pay more.
Kids love
That's
the lights.
bullshit.
You should
Love
see,
the
and the
lights.
case, literally, all the cases you get nowadays have glass on one side.
God.
So my keyboard or my computer, when it's on, will light up an entire room. It's got probably 30 LEDs in it. Every fan has 10 or 20 LEDs in it.
And when one goes out, they all go out. Come on,
No.
Russ, let's go check the lights.
No, they don't. They don't.
I'm joking. It's a joke, son. It's a joke.
So they are in
Yes.
his wife's house, who just
His-
left him, the
yeah.
parents' house, and they're watching a black and white film. Do you know the actor who's in that?
Judy Garland.
It's,
No, the earlier one, the
Oh.
English actor.
Well, it's Mickey Rooney.
That's Mickey Rooney
Yeah.
and Judy Garland, but there was another scene before that. It was George Saunders.
oh,
Oh.
yeah, because they're doing Picture of Dorian Gray.
Yes.
The whole point of life, or a whole point of
Wait,
temptation
wait.
is to yield to it.
Wait, you mean Phantom of the Paradise?
No, in that.
No, I'm kidding.
Oh, okay.
Because Phantom of the Paradise was, Dorian Gray. So.
Yes, of course, of course.
Bird person.
Really.
Yeah, they were
Phoenix
so
person.
nice to these people who broke and entered their house.
I
The
know.
I mean,
parents.
it is their son-in-law, but you have to imagine that there would be even more contention between the father and Grady, because they're pretty close in age. His daughter is, I would say, roughly half Grady's age, and then it's clearly his fault that they're separated. Like, he wasn't. I don't know. What does the dad say? Emily felt like you weren't there for her. And like Grady can't even remember the names of her friends that have like stayed in his house. Like he's not been an attentive husband. Unlike Sarah's at least present in her marriage from what you can see. She's at least dutiful. I
Well,
don't
her
know that-
husband is kind of a dick.
He's aloof.
No,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
agree.
He's
like
a loofah.
I think they're all phoning it in, and Emily's the one that kind of got shortchanged
That
because she's the one who made the first active decision.
Look at that-
She was
look at
like,
that
my husband's not living up to a standard of which I'd like to be treated, so I left. Like, and she's the one, the one character you never see is the one who makes the firm decision.
Well, the parents, his wife's parents, dad in particular, they're so waspy.
Oh, big time.
Oh,
they're
yes.
that waspy where it's like, I'm not going to yell at you.
I'm just
Trip.
disappointed.
I'm just going, I'm going to be civil implied. Well, where is she? I don't think I should tell you that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Grill me a cheese.
Yes.
But meanwhile, this lovely little moment, and this wasn't even necessary because there's not really a ton of suspense. You'd think that Poe would be a bigger plot point than he really ends up being, but Poe is.
Oh no,
still
he's a
in the,
MacGuffin.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's in the
the
back.
whole movie's MacGuffins.
Yeah, it's just exactly. That's the perfect word for
Yeah.
it. So Poe is in the back of the trunk, and at any given moment, like especially with smoking dope in a car that you're driving, Like, come on, they could get pulled over.
Imagine the
search.
smell.
Oh,
Yeah, exactly. It must reek in there. But when they're at the parents' house, their Newfoundland is sniffing around and whining because it can tell that there's another there's a dead dog in the
dead
trunk.
dog in the trunk.
Oh God.
Yeah, and all those little subtleties are so perfect.
And like
And the lighting.
The lighting is it's that lighting that
Yeah.
is very beautiful and very perfectly done, so much so that you don't notice it.
Right.
But
Well,
then you see and you look at that beautiful side light.
Oh yeah.
It was like noir almost.
A
the way it
turn
was
of the
put
face
together.
it takes a turn of the face for you to even tell that there's a difference in
Well,
the
you
light
s-
from one side to the next.
In that particular scene, you see
Where they're
Grady.
driving in the car over a bridge.
Yeah, well, no, before
With
the dad.
parents, yeah.
Oh.
Because Grady has this very distinct, line, and
One
it's-
side is lighter, the other side is
Yeah.
darker.
Yeah,
and
and when they cut to the reverse, I mean, you see the dad, you can tell he has light on that side of his face, but it's nowhere near as stark,
It's distinct. No.
and it's
Yeah.
just, it's little decisions,
Yeah.
Right.
little artistic touches that are just,
And-
it's
And we
beautiful.
won't get to it, but the one that I really liked too was when he was in the car at the very end and the sun hits the light, the weapon that he has in his hand, the nickel, and it reflects off of his
Yeah.
face. That was cool.
Yeah.
That was super cool. I mean, someone had to think of that.
Oh yeah,
and
exactly.
Put it in.
Yeah. Sitting and looking at storyboards
Yeah.
and going, okay, well, let's try it this way.
Right.
Right.
And we're about to run into a familiar actress, gentlemen. Did anybody recognize who played James's mother?
Oh, the mom from Gilmore Girls.
Yep.
Right? Yeah,
Ah,
yeah.
Kelly
done,
Bishop.
Kelly
well
Bishop. That's it.
done.
Yeah.
Also known as Baby's mother.
Yeah.
Because nobody puts James Lear in a corner.
Ooh.
She just puts him in a basement with a cask of Amontillado.
I do have to admit I had to look that up because
What?
Who the actress was.
Yeah,
Because I
didn't
was like,
recognize her.
I
I
know
could-
I know her.
I
Because she's
could
only in
see
the
it.
movie for like 2
yeah.
seconds. But
I should have known though.
But yeah, it's Kelly Bishop. And so all this time, the myriad of lies that James has been telling, he's painting a picture that he's homeless, he's living out of a bus station, that he eats these moldy cheese sandwiches from the vending machine. And then when you come to find his dad is not dying of glaucoma.
Colon cancer.
Colon cancer. Oh, but he smokes weed for his glaucoma. Sorry. And his mother used to be a dancer. Oh, really? What kind of dancer? Any kind they wanted her to be. It's just this tragic thing.
In a Catholic school, when you fall hard.
Yeah.
Yep.
She's a
And,
Catholic school, Catholic girl.
and even when they're in the grocery store earlier in the day, Grady's like, James's life was like the stuff of bad fiction. And he knows that there's something wrong, but he's so addled on pot and distracted by his own problems that any other adult would pick up on this bullshit immediately and just be like, come on, kid, where the fuck do you live?
I don't know though, because I mean, he has no reason to suspect he's lying.
I don't know,
You know-
the fact that he was out. I would be suspicious of him from the jump because he's at a stranger's house. I mean, I know he knows who the Gaskells are, but he's out in their yard at a party that he wasn't even strictly invited to, twirling a gun. So
Oh,
I
we've
don't know.
all
I'd
done
be-
that.
Yeah,
I mean, come on.
Yeah,
That's
it's not a big deal.
youthful indiscretion.
I'm just an uppity woman. I get tense around
You know,
people
and-
twirling
and
guns.
there is the student, the student teacher firewall that should be kept. You don't want to get too involved with your students.
Right.
Even though he did have him along and was listening to all this stuff, he wasn't validating it
right.
because he was
You need that wall, unless they're hot and it's college.
Katie Holmes. It's
If
got
only
it's
she
gotta
had
be
told-
college.
And let's just say college.
College.
Okay.
Wow.
Senior year in college.
I need to go. But yeah,
Are
if
you
only,
a goer? Wink, wink. Nudge, nudge. Say no more. Say no more.
See, all of my college professors look like werewolves. I mean, I there was one. I
Hojos.
had one college professor who was a Russian woman, and she taught statistics, which we called statistics. And she dressed like she was really hot, but she dressed like a Ferengi from Star Trek. And she spoke English only so well.
Okay.
And,
well enough. Yeah.
and she one day was telling us about how American girls don't understand how to keep a man. And she was trying to say,
excuse me.
no, it was the weirdest thing. And she was trying to say how her husband understood. Well, what she tried to say was, once you've been with a Russian woman and you know what that's like, you'll never date anyone else. But what she actually said was, once you taste a Russian woman,
yeah.
you won't want to eat any other women. And it was a delightful little episode.
Yikes. Okay.
I've been waiting to try to figure out how to
wedge
shoehorn
that
that one in for about 3 years
Well
now.
done.
God.
Yeah.
Well
And
done.
you finally
did
gave
it.
me the opening.
Yes.
That's what he said.
Let's play the recast game.
Yes, we've got
God,
to
I'm
recast
so
it.
bad at this, guys.
You can't lose.
I know. I just
Yeah.
make it up. You're gonna laugh at me.
And
You're
does it have to be age appropriate,
No,
or could it be
no.
young so and so,
Oh, it
or
doesn't
older
matter.
so and so? It doesn't matter.
Whoever you
Okay.
want.
All right. Well, what have you got in mind then, Jason?
Okay.
Want me to say the character and you tell me who they would be?
Okay. Let's. Okay. Yeah. Do that.
Hannah Green.
Kitty Holmes. Why'd you start with her?
Kim Kardashian. Kim
Okay.
Kardashian.
No.
How's that?
Okay.
Hey, there's no wrong answers, buddy.
Oh, okay. All
you
right,
found one.
Then let's start with Grady.
Grady. Okay. You're gonna think this is a bad idea. Nathan Fillion.
No, he's.
Okay, you like
I can
that?
see that.
Okay.
Yeah, I could see it.
Gary Oldman.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Gary Oldman.
Yeah, that would be good. Okay. For me, who? would
Actually, there's a
Grady be?
lot of good actors that could do it.
Yeah, that's true.
Alan Rickman.
Oh.
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 I'll get you, James Lear.
See, Grady's the tough one for
Adam
me.
West.
See, okay, going to your tiers
That
of,
would be fantastic.
that would be pretty great.
Smoke some weed, old chum.
But going back to your different stages of life comment, Adam, I would love
Yes.
to cast Robert Downey Jr. as Grady instead of Crabtree this
Yes.
time.
That's an excellent,
I think that would be a great transition and a good callback for him. So, okay, Grady, we got our choices for Grady. Who would Crabtree be?
Vince Vaughn.
Ooh.
Okay.
I was going to say
I'm
Matthew
throwing
McConaughey.
I'm throwing shit out.
That's what I love
It's all
about
good.
them weird English English major boys.
Hey. No, I was more thinking of from like a True Detective-y
Yes.
sort of Matthew McConaughey. You know?
Okay.
And
I
we
never
can
saw
go. We
True
can go
Detective.
any period, right?
Oh
Yeah, it
Okay,
doesn't
good.
matter. But okay, so RDJ is Grady for me. Who would be Crabtree now? I would pick Dominic Cooper. Do y'all know who he is?
Yes.
I don't.
Okay.
I was born yesterday.
No, you've seen him. You just probably don't realize it. But don't you see that sort of scoundrelly, charming quality about him?
Yeah.
Dominic Cooper could really do it.
Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah, he could do it. Okay.
And you know, for Grady, you want to go out there. Joel McHale.
Ooh, it's like the
Ooh.
crossover to
I-
Community.
Yeah, it is.
Because Alison
That-
Brie could be Hannah,
Oh, yeah.
Allison
yeah,
Brie.
absolutely.
Got it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
especially if Joel McHale was great.
Well, and James Lear is basically Abed, but instead of
No.
movies, it's books.
okay, you can't just recast Community.
All right,
at the
that's
end of
it.
this
I'm just picking all
movie.
community actors.
Okay, so Dominic Cooper for me for Crabtree, and you said Joel McHale for Grady. Now,
Yeah.
wait, who would you say? Crabtree is Benedict Cumberbatch. What about you? Who would play Crabtree?
Crabtree. That didn't I say? Wait, Crabtree. I said Vince Vaughn.
Oh yeah, you did.
That out
Okay,
there.
sorry.
Yeah. Just for fun.
Okay, so Hannah Green. So Alison Brie would be great. My another choice would be Emma Stone.
Yeah, Emma Stone. I could see that.
I think she could do it.
It's funny thinking about the community thing. I actually think Gillian Jacobs would be better. She doesn't look like her, but I think Gillian would play the part better.
Dame Diana Rigg.
Yeah.
From the Avengers. She'd have to wear leather.
Well, that's fine.
Yeah.
But no bra.
Look up Dame Diana Riggs from the Avengers, and you'll understand where I'm
Keith
going.
David is Vernon.
Yes.
Because
You're just.
I know,
literally
just
nailing
saying
it.
I know,
Community.
I
He's nailing it.
That actually is a really good choice. So yeah, Vernon.
Jim Rash as
As who?
I don't know as
As
Sarah's husband.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wonder. Damn it, Community could just be this. This is just Community in the future. That's what it is.
Oh, God.
Okay. Yeah, Dr. Walter Gaskell.
Who's Donald Glover?
Walter Gaskell could be. Why am I thinking George Clooney for that?
Okay.
I could see it as Dr. Walter Gaskell. Who would be a good? Okay, who would be Walter Gaskell?
Darren McGavin. I just
Actually,
that are just flowing. I'm using the.
Well, you could suggest Darren McGavin for anything. And I'm investing in that project.
Love Darren McGavin. Oh,
What about Sarah Gaskell?
he could play Katie Holmes' character. I'm still investing.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's green lit from this table.
Okay, Sarah Gaskell.
Oh, that's tough.
So especially
Oh,
with
Sarah.
Oh, Jessica Walter.
she's yeah. That's good.
You know, you got to be able to do the wasp thing.
That's true.
Or Portia de Rossi.
Yeah, she's almost a little too sleek for that character, though. Like,
Yeah,
Because-
she wouldn't be working in the greenhouse.
yeah, exactly.
No, you're right.
Because remember the commentary on that one episode where she was Scott Baio's maid, and they're just doing the comments with the cast because they were like, "Oh, look, that was the first time that Portia de Rossi ever actually took out garbage." And they're like, "Yeah, look at that Porsche." Like they make fun of her so much for being prissy, but yeah, I don't see her as a Sarah.
Nothing's coming.
Something's coming to me.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But I want James Lear. I have a nice,
All right,
supple young boy.
Oh, God.
Ew.
Come on.
Ew.
1965.
If you say...
Burt Ward.
Okay.
Burt Ward.
If you were going to say Sal Mineo, I was
No.
leaving.
No. I'm not going that far back. But come on, Burt
Can I
Ward.
smoke some weed?
James Lear.
Yeah.
Mm,
You know who Burt Ward is?
no.
Okay, good. That's just the way I
You
want
you
it.
would know if you saw him.
Yes, you would.
Okay. Well, now I gotta look it
Old
up.
chum.
Yeah, well,
Oh, now I feel like I know. Okay.
Yeah, you do know.
So who's your James Lear, Jason?
Ooh, that's tough. I'm not going to say Donald Glover.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes, I know who Burt Ward is.
How about for Sarah a young Dame Maggie Smith?
Yeah, oh yeah.
I thought that would be
Maggie Smith's another person who
She could play any role.
anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. She's like
Judi Dench.
um
Too severe.
She'd have to be a real young Judi Dench. That's for sure.
Well, we said no.
Julie
no-
Christie.
Oh,
Julie Christie.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Frog.
Banana. Your turn.
Frog from
Beer
Smoking
can.
Bandit. What is her name in real life?
Sally Field.
Sally Field. Sally Field
Oh.
could be a good Sarah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
think.
I could see that.
Like frog. Okay, where is this going? I'm scared.
She's having a spell.
I want to hop on you like a frog.
I'm sorry, an episode.
But yeah, I didn't come up with a James Lear. I think Andrew Garfield could pull it off.
You know, I was thinking that, but I think the world has had enough of Andrew Garfield.
That's not the point of the game.
No,
Okay.
I know.
Okay, most importantly, Q.
Q. I think I could play Q quite well.
You could. He gets to clutch on a younger woman at the club, so
I'm
go for
okay
it.
with that.
I'm sure you would hate that. What about you, Jason?
Well, George Saunders would be great at that role.
I agree.
I'm trying to think of who is more Rip Torn than Rip Torn.
He is so
I
unique.
know.
Who?
Jeffrey Tambor.
Ooh.
I could go with that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Jeff Goldblum.
Oh.
I could just hear him
Yeah.
doing the line of "To the shore of inspiration."
Well, he would
I
play
could
the
so
same
hear-
character he played in Life Aquatic.
I didn't see Life Aquatic.
You got to see Life Aquatic.
Okay,
It's
I'll watch it
fantastic.
just for you. But I
No,
think
but
he would be
it's
a
the
good
same
Q.
character.
And not just because I like Jeff Goldblum. I think he actually would fit really well into that role,
Yeah.
especially at his age that he is now.
Yeah, I could see that.
Cool.
Anybody else in the movie?
Yes. So the movie,
Oola.
Hula.
Yeah, that's-
Marilyn Monroe.
that's the big climax. So the whole, we didn't even mention this. So the reason why Ula comes back on the scene and it all ties together is because Vernon, the black gentleman that Grady and Crabtree were making fun of at the bar, is Ula's boyfriend and her baby daddy. So he has accused Grady of having stolen his car, and he actually chases Grady through alleyways, and he's like, "You driving this car?" And he's like, "Yeah, it's my car." "Bullshit, it's mine, motherfucker." And he's like,
That's
just
right.
yelling at, and Q and Crabtree are in the car too. And this is why Robert Downey Jr., this is one of my favorite lines in the whole movie, because he's got this just, he's so resentful toward Tripp for making him wait for the second novel, and like it's affecting his personal life, and he doesn't appreciate that Trip doesn't appreciate that it's hurting his personal life. So there's just all this subtle nuance to their relationship. And so they're in the back of the car, and Grady has also cock-blocked Crabtree from taking James home while he's comatose on drugs. And so Vernon stops him. And
a decent thing.
Yes. But Vernon gets in front of the car, and Crabtree's like, do you owe him a book too? And I laugh my ass off every time I hear that. But so Vernon steals his car back from Grady. And the problem there...
Well, because that's an important point. It is actually his car.
It is his car because Grady got the car from a friend who owed him money, who apparently has problems with owing people money. And so Grady took the car as collateral to make sure that he was going to get his money back.
English teachers are often engaging in this sort of activity.
Very true.
When they're smoking that much pot.
Okay, that's true. Yeah.
I would say so.
Okay.
So, and I've got a question about this because this is just not a good plan. But
no, it's a terrible plan.
I don't get it. But it's basically, you're right. Grady does turn James in with the simple act. But I've got to finish up why Vernon ties in. So Vernon steals his car back. It turns out that he's Ula's baby daddy. And the boys leave Marilyn's jacket in the car when it's stolen. So Ula starts to wear it because it's very pretty and fancy. And she's built just like Marilyn. What are the odds?
Thin shoulders.
Yeah, she had small shoulders. Most people don't know that. And so all that comes to a climax later. But so Grady takes the initiative to call James's parents, who he thinks are dying or dead, or he never really gets a beat on it. But then he just does the simple thing of looking them up in the damn book and calling them.
Katie Holmes does that.
No, he calls information. You're right, and gets their number. Okay, that's why he didn't know where they live.
He got the number from the library book. He called information to find out the town he lived in, but the town didn't exist.
That's right.
Carvel, but he still gets in touch with them.
He does. He found his home phone number in one of the books. There was a phone number.
Oh, that's right.
And then Katie Holmes.
You've seen this movie before, right?
Approximately 50 times.
Yes.
Apparently
the
details blur.
Yeah.
Sorry, hindsighters, I've let you down.
When she watched
Iron Man's about to give it to Spider-Man.
I know, God. There's so many DC Marvel interactions.
Iron
Man, Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Oh.
Katie Holmes from Batman, but
did that Spider-Man ever work with that Iron Man? Was there a crossover?
No. They were never in the, Tom Holland was the only one that ever worked with Robert Downey Jr. So, so it comes to a crux when Grady has to go and find the car to get the jacket back, but he has an episode while he's in the car and passes out. And unfortunately, he has James's gun in his hand. And so he's sitting in the back of a car that doesn't belong to him, and Vernon pulls his own gun, and they get into an altercation, and Robert Downey Jr., they have recovered Tripp's book. He's keeping it just
Boxes
in the
papers.
passenger
Boxes
seat
of papers
of the car they're in.
And what car are they drove?
With open top. Nothing covering the papers.
No, it was Katie Holmes' car, Hannah's car they borrowed.
But all this looks like a complete lack of sense when really Robert Downey Jr. points out the possibility that...
Was that happenstance that he just happened to be passing by?
I don't know.
No, that's the guy who took the car back because...
No, but I know, but there was a phone call where they asked for his name and address, and I was just wondering if that was...
It could be.
It was either the police...
No, it was that all comes together because that's the second time you see that van.
Right.
And that's how Grady knows where to look for it, because later when they do find the car, RDJ's like, oh my God, it's a miracle. How'd you know where to look, Trip? That's crazy. Right. So because James answers the phone earlier in the movie and he's like, oh, a stranger called. He didn't give his name. If it was the police, they would have stated that it's the police.
You're right. So
he's like, he didn't give his name, and he asked
James
if
Brown, wasn't it?
But you don't know that because James doesn't know the guy's voice. So because Vernon doesn't speak to him until later, and so James is like, he called and asked if somebody's driving a maroon Galaxy 400 or 500 with maroon interior. Or black interior, and he goes, well, what'd you say, James? I said yes. So that's great, James. It's fantastic. And then in the same night you see like the Kravnick's van, and then the Kravnick's van drives by when Trip is albeit stoned, but he's like, he puts those pieces together.
To know where it is. Yes.
And so he finds his car. Yes. And luckily Kravnick's is not a chain, because they go to the one Kravnick's dry cleaners.
It didn't really look like a chain.
No, it looked pretty run down.
Well, but an interesting diversion from the book, though, happens with Ula. Because
tell us.
In the movie, Trip sees that Ula is wearing Marilyn's coat.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And he lets her have it.
Yes.
Yes.
And in the book, he doesn't.
Oh, he doesn't?
No. He lets Sarah actually wears it at their wedding.
I had forgotten about that. It's
Yeah,
been
so
so
a little-
long since I read the book.
But it actually it's a lot better this way.
I agree.
And
Well, I thought it was important that he didn't return it because that angered the husband even more, that he was going to send him to jail, which forced the publicist to publish his book, which got him off the hook.
right.
Yeah, it all comes full circle.
It does. It's tied up into a nice, beautiful bow at the end.
And of course,
But the plan that gets James in trouble and gets the ball rolling is the fact that when Grady and Crabtree go to rescue James from his parents' house, they take Poe out of the trunk and put him in James's bed. And James does state, he's like, oh, my mom's been coming down here like every 30 minutes to check up on me. She's going to know what I'm missing. And he's like, oh, we should like... our DJ's like, oh, stuff a teddy bear and some clothes under there. She'll never know the difference. And Michael Douglas is like, no.
I got a better idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
No,
they
you
put
really
the dead
don't.
dog there. What?
you really don't have a better idea.
It's just like
You have a
he's
much worse idea.
At this point, I think he's approximately at 0 fucks given. So
Yeah.
whatever. And our DJ does nail Spider-Man. You're right. So
I think we know who the pitcher and who the catcher was.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I don't know. They both.
Well, he's got the indentation of a pillow in his cheek.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Will
he
it
was,
now?
he was biting the pillow.
Yeah.
I don't know why. That's what I've heard.
That was hella specific.
They were wrestling,
That's right. They were.
and he
naked
got
wrestling.
scared, and he hit his
Woodhouse,
face in
we
the
got any
pillow.
lube? Like at this point, even vegetable oil will help me get that drawer.
Who taught those
unstuck.
guys how to play leapfrog? They're doing it all wrong.
It's these young boys on
You're
the
never
dishes.
going to get anywhere.
They're
Oh,
playing
very
leapfrog.
cordial. We have to tie it up.
We
Yeah.
do have to tie it up. Alf to Seinfeld, for me, obviously, it's a 5.
Mhm.
Yeah.
First time I ever saw it. Having said that, I would like to give it an honorary, 9.
Yay!
It was a fantastic movie.
Yes.
I love this
Really,
movie.
really fantastic.
One of my all-time faves.
I guess really you're the only one who can do the Alf to Seinfeld. I mean, Mr. Brown, you have.
Well, since I'm not a biter, which I would give it a 5 and a 9, I'm going to give it a 5 and an 8, so that I'm not a
Yay.
copycat.
Okay, all right.
I did good.
Mhm.
Okay, so I loved this movie from the first time I saw it, which I would have been in my early 20s. So it's been several years since I first saw it, but I've watched it. This is my fall time movie. When the weather turns truly cold outside, I don't know what it is. I just get the urge to watch this movie.
Oh, I could
so
see it.
I watch it at least once a year. And especially since that's like during the school semester, the cold weather and the English, like all that just ties in and reminds me of my own college experience. Not that I ever shot a dog and smoked joints while I was driving a car, but
You haven't lived.
apparently not.
Mhm.
I didn't live through the 60s, so clearly not.
Anyway.
I would say when I first saw it, I loved it for what it was. But as I got older and read more books, and that's the thing about this movie. The better read you are, the more you're going to enjoy it, because there are lots of literary references, and you understand the overall air of the snooty English
So what you're
department.
saying is we lost our entire audience.
Yeah.
Damn, Mr. Brown, that's
Gang, sorry we brought this movie to you, but read a little bit more and you'll get it.
you're the worst.
Yeah.
So
we'll
I
be
would-
doing Transformers next week.
lots of explosions. But yeah, so I would say that this movie jumps up to a 9 for me, because it only gets better every time I watch it, because there are so many subtle nuances to it, and it not even in an Inception way where you're like, oh, I missed this tiny little item that was on the desk. It's nothing like that. It's all in the dialogue. I'll forget, or I never notice a particular line that somebody said, or some little gesture like the nickel that you brought up. I'd never caught that. So just little things. It improves for me literally every time I watch it. And I think it's kind of like what you said, the older you get, the better perspective you have on the different characters and the different stages of life that they're in.
Indeed.
So I totally am with you on that. So I'm going to give it a 9.
Okay.
All right. Well,
a very high scoring movie.
I think one
if
of the
on-
highest we've ever
yeah.
had, actually.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's fantastic.
Thank you. I'm glad I could
that's
bring this into.
fantastic. Right
That's
there.
not
There's
bad.
Katie
That's
Holmes.
not bad.
Sans bras. That's the Latin gang.
God,
Or French. I don't know.
And on that bombshell,
such intellect in this room. My God, it
Yes.
drops 50 points when there's no bra present. So on that bombshell of a note, we're going to wrap it up. So, Hindsighters, thank you for joining us for a non-contentious episode. That's what I was going for. It's almost the holidays, so we should get along every so often. So thank you for joining us for your drive time, getting stoned in the car time, your literary time, your any kind of time. We just appreciate you tuning in. This has been Darth, Adam, and Jason with Hindsight, and good night.